Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining Lumos Diagnostics this morning for a special investor briefing. My name is Jane Lowe, and I will be your host for today's meeting. It's also my pleasure to support Lumos on investor relations. We're here today to discuss an important partnership announcement for Lumos, who has just announced they've partnered with Phase Scientific for an exclusive distribution for their FebriDx test in the US market. It's a very significant announcement, and we'll step you through it today. To do that, joining me are Lumos' CEO and Managing Director, Doug Ward. Hello, Doug.
Good morning.
Good morning or good evening to you. CFO, Barrie Lambert. Morning, Barrie.
Morning, Jane. Morning, everyone. Great to be here.
Morning. Senior Vice President of Commercial Operations, Paul Kase. Hi, Paul.
Good morning.
Good morning. And also an important additional speaker with us is Bob Gergen, who is VP of Commercial Operations for Phase Scientific. Hello to you, Bob.
Hi, Jane. Very happy to be here.
Welcome. Okay, so the format for this session is that the team will provide a presentation. It was released to ASX this morning for your reference. After that, we'll open up the floor to Q&A. If you'd like to ask a question, you can do so using the Q&A ribbon in the bottom of your screen. But for now, though, Doug, I'll pass over to you to get us on the road. Thank you.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Jane. Really appreciate it. Appreciate everyone making this webinar today. I think, right, this announcement is probably, so far, one of the most pivotal announcements that we've made here at Lumos Diagnostics, and we're thrilled to talk about that and give you more detail in regard to the announcement and the agreement with Phase Scientific. So with that, next slide. Thank you. Next slide, please. So as Jane's already, go ahead and go back there. Sorry, one slide, George. Thanks so much if you can. Thanks. While Jane's already introduced our esteemed panel here, I did just want to make a little recognition here, if you don't mind. Number one, just want to recognize Paul Kase, our Senior VP of Commercial Operations here. Paul has really worked tirelessly to really put together some opportunities for us for consideration in regard to commercializing FebriDx. And we're very fortunate that Paul has a great relationship with leadership at Phase, and Bob's on the call here with us today. And I think these types of things come along that are this instrumental and significant for companies, and it's typically due to just the great leadership by two companies that end up making these things happen. So just wanted to recognize Paul for that, and certainly Bob for being instrumental, as well as their entire leadership team there at Phase that I've gotten to know over the months of having our discussions and negotiations in regard to this opportunity. So with that, next slide, please. For those of you who are new to Lumos, I'm just going to take the time here to a quick slide or two about who are we and what we do. I've been in diagnostics for about 35 years, and what I believe is that to be successful, you really have to address, in a very positive manner, unmet medical need. And I believe we're doing that, and we're doing that in spades, especially with FebriDx. And FebriDx is delivered and developed and manufactured and everything in the point of care environment by Lumos, right? And now with Phase Scientific joining us, they're part of that distribution component that you have to drive the top line and the bottom line for the product. So we're really pleased to have FebriDx really addressing, hey, who are we and why we exist. So with that, let's go to a quick overview of Lumos as a company right now. So as I talked about, FebriDx, that's our flagship product. I'm going to talk more about what that is. Bottom line is it's a rapid test, differentiates bacteria from non-bacterial to help and aid physicians in and whether or not the patient who has a respiratory infection, whether or not they should get antibiotics. Today's announcement is all about signing this distribution agreement with Phase Scientific. We believe that this is one of the largest signed distribution agreements for an ASX point of care company. It's about $317 million US over 6 years, and that's almost $500 million in Australian dollars over those 6 years. So we're thrilled about that partnership, and even more importantly, we're thrilled about the confidence that that we have and our tremendous partner Phase Scientific has in this product addressing an unmet medical need like no other product in this space. In order to do that, though, this product does need to be granted CLIA waiver by the FDA. I'm going to talk more about where that study is, but let me just say, listen, it's very, very confident in how that study is progressing and the timeline by which we think that we can get CLIA waiver submitted and off to the FDA. And there's a couple of items that we can talk about and give you some updates on to hopefully convince all of you that, boy, that's going really, really well. But I think the other thing that should tell all of you how well it's going is doing this agreement with Phase. I think Phase would only do this type of agreement if they really saw, and we've been able to convince them, and they've been able to convince themselves that this product is going to be granted CLIA waiver eventually. And I think this agreement really solidifies, I think, our belief in that position. And then 2 final notes here. We talk about our services business, which is, been the lion's share of the revenue of this company for many years. We continue to feel great about that part of the business. We're not really going to talk about it so much today, but everything's going well with that agreement with Hologic, where we're developing their next gen FFN test using our IP and our know-how, if you will. So, and then lastly, listen, I think it's worth emphasizing what we've been able to accomplish in the last couple of years here with our leadership team, especially with Barrie at the CFO position, and looking for very creative ways for us to further capitalize the company and bring cash in. Quite frankly, given where our stock price has been in the past at times, it's really important that we find strategic partnerships to bring in non-dilutive or limited dilution in our stock through things like our Hologic IP agreement, the lease and sell back, and our BARDA agreements. And this is also another contributor to that means of adding capital into the company in a non-dilutive fashion. Next slide, please. So, as I said, listen, we are beyond excited. I think of this as a true reset of this company, and now we are on our way, I think, full steam ahead with this agreement with Phase Scientific. So, as we said, it's for the exclusive U.S. distribution of FebriDx through Phase Scientific, 317 over 6 years. And I would say, there's always a heavy lift to get a new product that addresses an unmet medical need, even though it does have terrific, I'd say, reimbursement attributes, and we're having more and more success with our coverage. It's still a heavy lift to get that going. And what I'd like to thank Phase is, listen, they're committed to doing that heavy lift with us. So we're pleased for that. And first couple of years, I would say are still terrific relative to the contribution that Phase is committing to Lumos, but it's really once you work a couple of years and you get off the ground and get that reputation built and people starting to use it, that it really starts to ramp up. So we're really thrilled about this work that we'll do early on in the first couple of years, the heavy lift to get it going, and then hopefully we really start to see the fruits of that labor here in years 2 through 6 of the agreement. Next slide, please. Barrie, would you mind going through the detail of the agreement?
No problems. Thanks, Doug. Yeah, so just to go through a bit of detail here on the distribution agreement with Phase, because many people may not have had a chance just to get through the detail just yet. So I might start on the right-hand side here, a summary of key terms. So again, just repeating what Doug said, 6-year term, and the agreement does have options to extend if the parties mutually agree. Exclusive rights to distribute and commercialize FebriDx under the Lumos brand in the US. And it's possible co-branding, as the parties, move down the track and believe that's the right approach for the product. Obviously, Lumos retains all IP rights, is the manufacturer of the product, so our quality control and product compliance regulatory team and quality team there in California will be responsible for all of that and making sure we have quality product to put in the market. Initial contract value is up to $317 million US there, and I'll go through the details in a minute. That's assuming CLIA waiver is granted by the FDA and all of the minimum order quantities in the contract are achieved. Just a quick comment on the contract value, assuming we don't receive grant of CLIA waiver, which we don't believe will be the case, but as we've mentioned in the past, the moderate complex market is about 7% roughly of the entire TAM in the US. So you can see a smaller number of 25 million there. The contract does contain, regular customary business review process and a checkpoint at the end of the 3rd year as well. So standard clauses for distribution agreements of this type. So just moving to the left, now I'll just run through some of these numbers here. So there's an exclusivity fee paid up front at signing, and these are all in US dollars, which is 1 million. And there's a prepaid purchase order paid up front on signing. That's another 1 million. There's another prepaid purchase order which will be paid when Lumos submits its CLIA waiver application to the FDA. That's 1.5 million. There's a prepaid purchase order on the grant of CLIA waiver, which is 5 million. And then across the remaining years, so sort of years 2 to 6, there's minimum order quantities of product, which add up to 308.5 million. Therefore, the total contract value with this distribution agreement with Phase is US 317 million. And I would just say that I've had a couple of questions just around the margin on these sales, and we expect the gross margin to be consistent with what Lumos's gross margin has been and what we've reported in the past. So I think that's it, Doug. I'm happy to take questions at the end, of course, but that's some of the detail on the contract.
Yeah, terrific. So as you can see, we've spent a lot of time working with Phase to go through that kind of detail and put together, a terrific annualized plan together for FebriDx. Very excited to make that announcement. For those of you who may be a little bit new to, okay, who is Lumos Diagnostics and what is FebriDx? We just thought we'd put up a couple of slides here to help, help people understand what this is. So, it's a one-of-a-kind assay, right? It's a rapid assay that uses a fingerstick blood sample to basically tell the doctor, is this a patient that has a bacterial infection or a viral infection? And that aids the doctor in deciding who should get antibiotics. And why don't we go to the next slide, please? What has become very apparent over time is, too many antibiotics are given to people, and that's having an impact in regard to one, antibiotic resistance, but even more damaging at times can be people can have adverse reaction to antibiotics, or and in giving antibiotics to people who shouldn't have them. We find that it's about 40% of the time that antibiotics are actually provided to people with acute respiratory infection. They don't need antibiotics. So this can have a profound effect to aid that physician in making that decision. And as you can see there on the right, that almost 60% of antibiotics, when they're prescribed, they're actually provided for patients who have these acute respiratory infections. So without a doubt, this is one of those rare products, quite frankly, that will have a major, I think, impact on healthcare. My vision around this, quite frankly, is I want people to think about today, like today, when you go in here in the US and you go with a respiratory infection, they do a flu test on you, or they do a combo test on you. And it's everyday occurrence. And that's been brought about over the last, decade plus, of people like Paul and Bob of bringing the flu test to market. And I'm looking forward to the day when people are going to go, well, what was it like before you had a test to decide whether it's bacterial or non-bacterial infection for respiratory? I just envision when people are that's going to become such a commonly used and known test here over time, that we're just absolutely excited about where this is going to go once we have that CLIA waiver. Why don't we go to the next slide? Listen, this last 7 months have been absolutely stellar in regard to the deliverables that we have achieved. I have been, we have kind of put down a path and a strategy that I could not be more thrilled about. We are hitting it on all points. We don't always hit exactly in the time frame. Things can take a little bit longer than what you want sometimes, but just thrilled with the fact that everything that we're talking about are things that we've committed to, and then we're able to come to the market and say we've delivered, and we continue to do that, right? Everything from starting the study, having BARDA give us non-dilutive funding to cover that study, getting the CPT codes and the reimbursement coverage by the MACs here in the US. And then very, very soon we'll start, a pediatric study, again, covered by BARDA, in order to give us non-dilutive funding to achieve that milestone. And now with the Phase Scientific partnership, it's all coming together. We still have a number of great announcements coming, so we're thrilled about that. But like I said, I'm just thrilled about the execution that this team has been able to deliver over the last 7 months. Next slide, we'll just give you a quick update on the trial. Everything really, right, comes down to this trial from a standpoint of the sky's the limit for this company and this test. And we feel excellent about where we are. So we started that trial in December, right? And as of about a week ago, we've secured 105 bacterial positive patients. So we're almost there. Right, we'll target around 120 total, probably even, whether that's exactly 120, could be less, could be a little bit more, but we anticipate that we're going to wrap that study up in weeks, right? So we feel great about that. And then we'll be able to announce when we submit and put that forward. And I can just say, to to give people the confidence that we feel, right? Again, you don't sign this deal with Phase unless you're really confident that you're going to end up with CLIA waiver. In addition, I would just say, the pediatric study with BARDA, well, we've put forward our plan around that, and they are very, very excited to move that forward, and they'll be making a decision on that in a very, very short time. And again, they wouldn't be making that kind of decision if they were, had significant concerns with our CLIA waiver study. So again, we're feeling great about the positive nature of where we are with that study, and should get that submitted, within, I would think within a next couple, 2-3 months. That being a long scenario, we're going to try to move all of those dates in, quite frankly, as we get closer to our 120 number. And why are we doing this? The next slide. It's all about market opportunity. Right now, we have about $100 million market in front of us, right? We address around 6 million patients here in the US, but it's 80 million in the CLIA waived environment. So it's 15 times bigger. That market opportunity is $1 billion, $1.5 billion, right? It's a big market opportunity here. And when you think about what COVID did and what the flu tests have done in the past, this is the next big play in this rapid market in the respiratory disease area. So we're thrilled to partner with Phase to go after this market and make a dent in it. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Paul Kase, our Senior VP of Commercial Operations.
Doug, thank you for that. So folks might wonder, why did we partner with Phase? And we had a few organizations approach us, and we chose Phase. One, I'll get into a few bullets on this, but first, we believe they're an excellent fit as far as a passion for innovation. They share that with us. They share a passion for novel technology with us. They have a drive and a hunger that's similar to us from a stand-up of a startup company to basically provide 100% focus to the FebriDx test. And I think focus is the key word there. So you couple that with an extensive understanding of the point of care market, both in the US and actually international as well. You also combine that with a very highly regarded, well-respected commercial leadership. And at the helm is Bob Gergen. Now, Doug had mentioned some kind words in the beginning of this as far as Bob and my relationship with Bob. And so a little background is Bob and I have spent many years in the past together. We were the first to introduce rapid point of care influenza testing, which obviously demonstrated very positive results in the US. And so I feel like I can attest to his very strong skill set, especially commercially. We also are very impressed. If you think about that skill set, it goes along with a very strong network of sub-distributors and end user customers and even your larger distributors. When you've been in the industry, and Bob, I don't mean to date us, okay, but in the industry, in the industry as long as we have, you just kind of everybody, I feel like. And so those relationships are really important, especially when you're going to put together a go-to-market strategy. And finally, the financial commitment. We've had other organizations say, hey, we want to promote FebriDx, but it's one thing to say it, and it's another thing to provide that financial commitment, not just on the front end, right, but also the commitment to investing in the actual go-to-market strategy and the OpEx dollars that are required to do so. So Phase has done that as well. So we couldn't be any more pleased with our choice, and I believe Phase feels the same. And I share Doug's excitement. Hopefully that's come through. I'm sure it has through this webinar. At this point, I will then turn it over to Bob Gergen, who has a couple slides to talk about Phase and his commercial strategy. So Bob, I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you, Paul. So really appreciate that, the kind words from you and Doug. So yeah, I'm the VP of Commercial Operations at Phase Scientific. I do have over 25 years experience in specifically the rapid point of care testing space in the United States. And so I've been leading commercial groups probably for the last dozen years or so, and recently joined Phase to further the commercial footprint really in the scale. And just want to say how excited we are. These opportunities don't come along very often, and we're just excited to be here. So I appreciate that. So a little bit about Phase. So the company is a 15-year-old company, headquartered in Hong Kong with cross-border setup in Southern California. So what that does is it allows us to leverage really the strengths of each region for R&D and commercialization purposes, right, to bring this innovation to the market. So, and then of course we endeavor to focus on innovative diagnostics in the oncology and infectious disease area. So we feel like this is a great fit for us. We've garnered US FDA approval and CE marks in Europe, which allows us to provide testing in large numbers in well over 30 countries, and we've taken advantage of the opportunity. We've recently completed a $34 million Series A funding round, which we believe is the largest Series A raise in the diagnostic technology sector in half dozen years or so in Asia. And of course, we've got great support from the Gates Foundation and the NSF and NIH agencies in the United States. And so we feel poised to, with our background and our passion for this business, to partner with Lumos. Next slide, please. I think there's a little pause on my when I see the next slide. So if you'll just bear with me here, they've been coming through kind of slowly.
So we should have the Phase Scientific Commercial Strategy slide coming up on your side, Bob. Let me know if you need me to send a copy your way so you can.
So you all are seeing the slide?
Yes, we have the slide here. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm not seeing it.
Okay. George, can we just go back one and then once again?
It just came up. It just came up.
Oh, good. Okay.
Okay, thanks very much. So on the commercial side, again, to Paul's point, I'm a commercial person. My intent is to help, again, prove the model, scale the business here with Phase and the Lumos FebriDx product. So to do that, we need a network of national and regional distributors. And so I've spent the majority of my adult life working with these folks, and they deploy over 3,000 sales reps that call on clinics every day. So that's the starting point. And then we also have our contact sales group in MedPro Partners that we intend to move forward with as well. And they have 60 sales reps. So we'll have a Lumos Phase 10 direct sales personnel group calling on the verticals you see here: urgent care, student health, worksite health, and those organizations, along with, once CLIA waived, that physician office lab market that we covet, because that number is about 300,000 clinics or sites, I should say, where we will endeavor to sell product to. And what we've done in the past, and it's work, and Paul mentioned that the influenza business years ago, is target those under-penetrated markets where the innovators and early adopters really want to provide that unmet need, that address that unmet need that Doug talked about. And many of those are high volume users, and those are the folks that we will again focus on. We want to further the hard work Paul and his team has done and expand the footprint based on their successes, and then leverage our Indicate customer base to drive FebriDx utilization and adoption, and then obviously add additional customers that we don't already have. And to do all of this, of course, we need a strong marketing focus, and we have a very strong mutual marketing group in both companies. And so what we always want to look at is why it matters for the end user. And Doug had said it best again: we address that unmet need. I've had my eyes and have been exposed to FebriDx early on, many, many years ago in its early iterations, and it does have that unmet need. And then, of course, proof through the people and case studies and KOL spotlights, all the sort of blocking and tackling that a group has to do to market the business. And then make sure that it's a consistent narrative across packaging and social media and collateral materials and the website and all those things to make sure the customers are clear on what the intent is and what the message is. So that's a quick overview of phase and the commercial strategy. And I'd now like to hand it back over to Doug.
Thank you very much, Bob. Great to have you here talking for phase today relative to our outstanding, agreement that we've announced today. So really appreciate it. So just talk about really the quick priorities and what you guys can expect over the coming couple of months and so forth here. So we'll complete that CLIA waiver study. We'll submit that application to the FDA, and we'll be able to announce that here in a relatively short time. So we're very, very excited about that. With that, there's still a lot of heavy lift here, even before CLIA waiver. Paul and team have done a great job, especially I'd say on the PLA code and getting the coverage by the MACs. And we'll continue to drive a lot of that around the reimbursement success. But we really want to help phase get off to a terrific start here as fast as possible. And we'll do that. In fact, I do know that Bob and I were talking on a pre-call for this, and right, one of our guys are out there right now in Irvine, California, to get ready to have meetings tomorrow at phase to start talking to their sales reps and get them started there. So we're really, really pleased. Like we're going deep right off the bat here. So love that type of grit and determination, and as Paul said, focus on trying to get this off the ground. We will be announcing, things with BARDA on a pediatric study as soon as we're able. We have presented to them to get that started. We're just waiting for their decision, and once we get that decision, we'll be bringing that to you all with an announcement. And we feel very bullish about the fact that we should be able to move this forward with BARDA. And then, as I said before, the last thing, hey, we continue to drive our outstanding relationship with Hologic and the FFN co-development program. And we'll be updating the market, I think, probably pretty shortly on some advancement in a number of the milestone phases over the last the work that we've done over a few of those phases as we continue and as we continue to broaden the scope of that agreement as well. So next slide. All in all, listen, we feel terrific. I have to say, I really do. I think this is a total, take the next big step for Lumos getting where we belong with bringing FebriDx to market, and very excited. Just let all of you also know, I will be out in Australia next week. I'll fly out of here on Friday here of the US. And you can see here the dates and locations, and all I can say is, would love to talk to as many people as possible about where we stand, and if you have questions and so forth. And please reach out to George here with IR department in regard to coordinating any of that if you so choose. So with that, Jane, I'll turn it over to you all for the Q&A.
Thanks, Doug. Okay, so as Doug mentioned, we'll now move into Q&A. A reminder, if you'd like to ask a question, you can do that using the Q&A function, which is in the ribbon at the bottom of your screen. We have had a few come through already. So a couple here, actually. So Doug, can you take a step back and explain the implications for the CLIA waiver? The related question is, a lot of this agreement's dependent upon CLIA waiver success. Can you please talk about your level of confidence in achieving the waiver grant, and also how that trial's progressing?
Yeah, so if you don't mind, I'll tackle that in two different ways. One is just relative to the confidence that we have in how well that's progressing. As I said, 105 positives right now with a target of 120. We'll wrap that up in, like I said, weeks, and we'll be able to then, it does take a little bit of time. You have to, right, prepare the submission and application and everything. So it does take a few weeks to put that together, and then we'll submit that off to the FDA. Again, we're not going to sit here and tell you, hey, it's a done deal, and when exactly will the FDA tell us? But I think from my perspective, it's extraordinarily positive. The work, what we're hearing from the sites, they're very pleased with how the testing is going. We don't have, we're blinded from some of this data, so we can see numbers and they can give us their view on, hey, how did the materials work and the instructions and so forth that they utilize, and they're very, very positive about what's going on in the trial right now. I would also say that I don't believe BARDA would progress their pediatric study without feeling, it's a $5 to $6 million study they're going to pay for pediatric samples. They wouldn't progress that with us if they didn't have high confidence in how that test is progressing and how that trial is progressing. So like I said, we feel good. So that's kind of point one. Point two here is the implications, and I'm not exactly positive if this is what you're asking, but so right now, the way the agreement's set up is we'll end up getting, right, 2 million, immediately, $2 million US, 1 million for the exclusive nature of the agreement, 1.5 for product prepayment. On submission, right, we'll get another 1.5 million. And then with actual granting of CLIA waiver, we'll get 5 million prepayment from phase at that time. So we're feeling great not only about the trial, but then the implications of, okay, what does that mean relative to revenue to Lumos and to commitment by phase for working together and driving this market together going forward. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. There is a related question which ties to funding. So can you please comment on how you're going to fund the ramp up?
The ramp, I assume you're talking about the ramp up for phase?
Yeah, correct.
Or
I expect so. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, guys, I think Bob, I don't want to speak for Bob nor for phase, but I think Bob kind of addressed that in that, they had one of the largest capital raises there as a business in Asia. And, they'll be using some of the use of those proceeds, right, to get this off the ground and start driving the business. They're a private company. At this stage, they don't, and nor would I expect them, and typically neither would we say exactly what we're going to spend on that. But right, you can be rest assured that I do know that Bob and Paul are working arm in arm on putting together that strategy. We'll continue to invest in that commercialization effort as well, and there's commitments in the agreement for us to do that, as well as they will be financially committed to making this happen. So if you don't mind, I kind of just leave it at that higher level if that's okay.
Okay, thanks, Doug.
I'm happy to add a point, Doug, if you want.
Sure.
I mean, I think just reinforce that these purchase orders from phase are prepaid. And I think we've made it clear in the past we have a good level of manufacturing capacity in California, so that doesn't concern us. And one final point from me is getting a little bit into the minutiae of the contract, but throughout the contract period, purchase orders are paid 50% upfront as well. So it certainly covers the raw material required there. So I think the contract is very well designed to make sure that Lumos's working capital is in good shape.
Thanks, Barrie. Okay, I had a qualifying comment on the first question that I asked you actually, which was the one around, can you take a step back and explain the implications for the CLIA waiver? The intent of that was the implications for physician use of the test. So that's where we're expanding the market size, getting it into different locations, right? Doug, do you want to just talk to that?
Well, actually, if you don't mind, I'd like Paul to
Yeah, please.
You get that question, Paul? Do you need that repeated, or are you good?
No, I think I'm good. I believe you covered some of that in with one of the slides, but it's an excellent question. So where we are right now, from a standpoint of still achieving some milestones, for example, reimbursement. We've put quite a bit of resources behind achieving 6 out of the 7 Medicare administrative contractors, and actually our conversations last Friday with the lone remaining MAC went very well, and more to come, but the discussion was very positive. So that'd be 7 of 7. And so, but my point is, along the way towards, as we talked about, an ongoing and so far successful clinical trial for CLIA waiver, to have CLIA waiver granted, we're achieving milestones. If you equate it in a way of painting, a lot of blue tape, a lot of prep, and making sure that things are done accurately. And so what occurs is you have a much more defined, somewhat smaller market where utilization will lag a bit. It doesn't mean we're not putting on new customers, but it does mean that we need to make sure that these other milestones are met, so that when CLIA waiver is granted, that we're not still putting building blocks, if you will, in place. And so you're going from a market, as Doug had mentioned, of arguably just around $100 million, but you immediately go into overdrive towards a $1.5 billion market based on the 80 million acute respiratory infections that occur annually in the U.S. every year. Does that answer your question, Jane? I
think it does. The other number is just the number of sites that you might, go from a really complex environment to. Yep. Right. So you've now expanded to 300,000 sites. One could argue that doesn't even capture some of the smaller markets like cruise industry, which has expressed a lot of interest as of late, and Indian health and other areas that I don't think are even captured in that number. So we feel very, very bullish about that market, that TAM, if you will, that total available market. Okay, great. Thanks, Paul. Okay, we're getting pretty close to time. We might just take a few final quick questions. Doug, I've got two here that I'm hoping you can knock off quickly relating to today's announcement. So 1, expected date of CLIA waiver submission, and 2, typical period to wait once the submission's gone in. Yeah.
We don't have an exact date to give you today. I mean, to be fair, we have a weekly call on this, and we're tracking that. What I would just say, if everything comes down to the accrual rate, and if you remember when we first started the trial, it was terrible, and then it was really, really positive, and it continues to stay positive right now, even though we're in the middle of our summer here in the U.S. So I would just say my expectation for submission is in probably that there's a window from August to September. I'm not sure. Okay, is that mid-August and mid-September, or a week either side of that, or something? Probably something like that.
Thanks. And then the follow-on question was typical period to wait after the submission's gone in.
Yeah, that's the $317 million question. Right?
You did that.
Listen, you don't know. Here's what I put this into my head because we have a 510K, so we have FDA clearance today. The clinical safety and efficacy of the product is proven clinically, right? With our Disrupt study, we checked all the performance box except for pediatrics, right? Now what we're doing is what's called a usability study. We're not sitting there saying, we don't have to do a comparison against, 20 other tests. It's just comparing FebriDx against FebriDx, trained operator, untrained, with the same patient. My hope, it's not and that's not a strategy, right? But my hope is that it would not be an elongated time frame. But I just don't know, because right, we're not asking for performance. It's all about usability. Did it work, and were there very, very few errors, right? And if that meets it, that's kind of a, if you will, it's a hopefully a low threshold, is quite frankly, that I hope that we could get through quickly. But there are no promises of that, obviously.
Thanks, Doug.
Just to dovetail on Doug's comment quickly too, is we are looking at different ways to truncate that time frame. So we are working with folks on Capitol Hill, lobbying firms to work with the FDA to see if there's a potential. It just means that we're looking at as many ways as possible to bring the grant of CLIA waiver into our hands as soon as possible. But we'll keep taking these milestones as we achieve them. We're very proud of them. But if we can truncate some time, we'd enjoy that too. So.
Absolutely. Thanks, Paul. Okay, let's make this the last question. We do have a few left in the queue, but we can get back to you directly on anything that's left here. Maybe for you, Barrie, are you aware of any broker analyst who may issue an equity report on Lumos?
Yes, I am. Would you like me to name them?
Yes. Yes, please.
So we have two broker analysts covering the company at the moment. Chris Callis at MST Access and Mark Fischera at Foster's Stockbroking. So my understanding is they plan to update or their reports or issue a report as soon as possible. Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so that's about all we've got time for today. Sincere thanks to all the people that have joined us at what was extremely short notice. We promise we won't ask you to do that too often, but I'm grateful that you could turn up. We'll make a copy of the recording available as well for anyone that couldn't join today. As you mentioned earlier, Doug, the team will be in Australia next week on a roadshow. If you'd like a follow-up meeting or a meeting, please reach out to my colleague, George Kopsiaftis, whose details are on today's announcements. George can also help in supporting with addressing any follow-on questions that you might have. But with that, I might just hand over to you, Doug, for any closing comments.
Yeah, I would just say, hey, thanks everyone for taking the time and with such short notice in regard to the going through the webinar with us. We are thrilled and we appreciate everyone's support, and hopefully we see positive value generation for the company here with such an outstanding and quite frankly, just I think one of those deals that are far and few between and are pivotal and really reset this company. So please, thanks again for supporting us, and we look forward to some additional great updates in the very near future.
Excellent. Thanks, Doug. Well, with that, I'll say we look forward to keeping everyone across Lumos's progress. Invite you all now to disconnect and have a great day. Thanks all.
Thank you all.